Hello and welcome to Let's Review. So, last week I didn't actually have time to record a Let's Play, sadly. And I've realised that that situation is probably going to start getting worse and worse as we get closer to Christmas. As such, I needed something to do on this show during those weeks, so I've decided to create a new segment for the show. One which I'm going to call Digging in the Crate. What? Is that really the best name that you could come up with? Believe it or not, yes it is. But it does actually make a certain sense once I bring up this. I am willing to bet that every one of you has one of these. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that yours is a crate. It could well be a drawer, a shelf, an entire cupboard, or it could just be a pile of DVDs chucked haphazardly into a corner of a room. But I'm willing to bet that somewhere in your house you have a collection of games. And with digital distribution on the rise, I'm buying fewer and fewer physical copies. And honestly, that's kind of a shame. Are you actually getting sentimental over DVDs? Actually, quite a few of the things in here are old enough to be on CD. But regardless, for the first episode of Digging in the Crate, I present Alpha Protocol. The espionage RPG. A Sega game? Yes, a Sega game. Look, Sega might be complete morons sometimes, especially when it comes to gameplay footage, but that doesn't mean they don't publish good games on occasion, and Alpha Protocol is a good game. Okay, it's flawed as all hell, but it's definitely worth talking about. And I'm going to start by talking about the manual. Well, it was nice having viewers while it lasted, I suppose. Oh, shut up. Look, no one bothers to make proper manuals anymore, and frankly I miss them. You still get a lot of tooltips and tutorials, and occasionally get one in PDF form, but I miss the days when I used to sit down while the game was installing and just read the manual cover to cover and look forward to what was coming. Alpha Protocol's manual? Well, it's a little bit on the thin side, but it does also come with this. Now, this contains a lot more detailed information. It's got dossiers on a lot of the main cast, breakdowns of the various weapons, and detailed breakdowns of every single skill tree. This is actually a genuinely excellent way to do things. You've got the basics, and you've got the details. And between them, they do an excellent job of explaining the gameplay of Alpha Protocol. Unfortunately, the gameplay is by far the weakest part of Alpha Protocol. I thought the whole point of this exercise was to talk about things that you actually like. I do like it, but just because I like it doesn't mean it doesn't have problems. Many problems. Most notably the fact that the stealth system is kind of broken. Because the main ability of the stealth skill tree is the ability to turn invisible, once you have that, the stealth is basically easy, because you can walk straight up to guards and knock them out immediately. This works even when they've been alerted, and it completely unbalances the game, especially later on when you can sustain it for 30 to 40 seconds at a time. Honestly, the rest of the gameplay is not too great either. Overall, the gameplay is average, pedestrian, but it doesn't detract from the really excellent nature of the story and the characters, and that is where Alpha Protocol shines. Ah, finally something that I can talk about. Yeah, well, that hasn't stopped you up until now, has it? The story of Alpha Protocol follows Agent Mike Thornton, a young man freshly recruited into the Alpha Protocol agency. His first mission is to recover a group of stolen missiles from the terrorist faction Al-Samad. Unfortunately for him, nothing on this mission is as it seems, and Thornton is forced to go rogue in order to uncover the truth. That is the kind of setup you would normally expect to find in a spy thriller, and that's exactly what Alpha Protocol is. There is a damn good reason why your main conversation choices fall into one of three archetypes: the suave James Bond type, the no-nonsense professional Jason Bourne, and the complete dick that is the Jack Bauer archetype. However, this choice is not as limiting as it first appears, as you are encouraged to swap between styles depending on whom you are conversing with. Ultimately, it's all about how you choose to deal with people. Do you want to make them like you so that they're more willing to help? Or do you want to piss them off to the point where they can't think straight? Either option is completely viable, and it causes a lot of interesting changes in the story. It's one of the few games I know where the promise that your choices matter really is fulfilled, even down to the order you choose to do the main operations in. Take, for example, if you choose to do Moscow early on, then you will run into a character named Z, a mercenary. And, if you can get her on your side, then later on during the Rome missions, she will be available to assist you. But, if you choose to do the Rome missions first, she will comment on your actions there during the Moscow segment when you meet her for the first time. Your playstyle will also affect some of the conversations, as characters will often act with surprise if you have been stealthy, call additional backup to themselves if you have not, and they will also often comment on your style of armour, or even if you choose to approach them wearing civilian clothing. This is why I think that Alpha Protocol is worth your time, because it has a truly spectacular amount of replayability. I have owned it since it first came out in 2010, and it's one of those games that I just keep coming back to see what will happen if I do something just a little bit differently. I definitely think it's worth your attention, especially if you're willing to overlook its flaws in the gameplay department. Fundamentally, it is an excellent piece of storytelling with some very strong characters and some truly interesting moral decisions to be made throughout. I would have liked Alpha Protocol to get a sequel, but sadly that's never going to happen now. Ultimately, I think we should just enjoy what we got, because at the end of the day, it's worth enjoying. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to have a dig through this crate and see what the hell else is in here. I will see you later.